Syria covers an area that has seen invasions and occupations over the ages, from Romans and Mongols to Crusaders and Turks. It is home to diverse ethnic and religious groups, including Kurds, Armenians, Assyrians, Christians, Druze, Alawite Shia, and Arab Sunnis, the last of whom make up a majority of the Muslim population. Modern Syria gained its independence from France in 1946, after which it saw considerable political instability with multiple military coups and coup attempts between 1949 and 1971. Between 1958 and 1961 it briefly joined with Egypt to form the United Arab Republic. Significantly, the 1963 coup saw the Arab Socialist Ba'ath Party establish a one-party state. General Hafez al-Assad seized power in 1970, setting up a repressive political system. After his death in 2000, his son Bashar al-Assad inherited the presidency. Following the 2011 Arab Spring, Syria saw a multi-sided civil war, with involvement of different countries. More than 6 million Syrians fled the country. After the defeat of Islamic State, the front line stabilized with the country effectively divided into cantons. In late 2024, a coalition led by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, swiftly captured several major cities, including Damascus, and toppled Assad's regime. Syria is a country in West Asia located in the eastern Mediterranean and the Levant. It is bounded by the Mediterranean Sea to the west, Turkey to the north, Iraq to the east and southeast, Jordan to the south, and Israel and Lebanon to the southwest. It is under a transitional government and comprises 14 governorates. Damascus is the capital and largest city. With a population of 25 million across an area of 185,180 square kilometers, 71,500 square miles, it is the 57th most populous and 87th largest country. The name Syria historically referred to a wider region, broadly synonymous with the Levant and known in Arabic as al-Sham. The modern state encompasses the sites of several ancient kingdoms and empires, including the Eblan civilization of the 3rd millennium BC. Damascus and Aleppo are cities of great cultural significance. Damascus was the seat of the Umayyad Caliphate and a provincial capital for the Mamluk Sultanate in Egypt. The modern Syrian state was established in the mid-20th century after centuries of Ottoman rule, as a French mandate. The state represented the largest Arab state to emerge from the formerly Ottoman-ruled Syrian provinces. It gained de jure independence as a parliamentary republic in 1945 when the First Syrian Republic became a founding member of the United Nations, an act which legally ended the French mandate. French troops withdrew in April 1946, granting the nation de facto independence. The post-independence period was tumultuous, with multiple coup attempts in the country between 1949 and 1971. In 1958, Syria entered a brief union with Egypt, which was terminated in a 1961 coup d'état. The 1963 coup d'état carried out by the Military Committee of the Ba'ath Party established a de facto one-party state, which ran Syria under martial law from 1963 to 2011, effectively suspending constitutional protections for citizens. Internal power struggles within Ba'athist factions caused further coups in 1966 and 1970, the latter of which saw Hafez al-Assad come to power. Under Assad, Syria became a hereditary dictatorship, with power consolidated around his family. Assad died in 2000, and he was succeeded by his son, Bashar al-Assad. Since the Arab Spring in 2011, Syria has been embroiled in a multi-sided civil war with the involvement of several different countries, leading to a refugee crisis in which more than 6 million refugees were displaced from the country. In response to rapid territorial gains made by the Islamic State during the civil war in 2014 and 2015, several countries intervened on behalf of various factions opposing it, leading to its territorial defeat. Thereafter, 3 political entities, the Syrian Interim Government, Syrian Salvation Government, and the Autonomous Administration of North and East Syria, emerged in Syrian territory to challenge Assad's rule. In late 2024, a series of offensives from a coalition of opposition forces led to the capture of several major cities, including Damascus, and the fall of Assad's regime. A country of fertile plains, high mountains, and deserts, Syria is home to diverse ethnic and religious groups. Arabs are the largest ethnic group, and Sunni Muslims are the largest religious group. Up until the capture of Damascus by rebel forces, it was the only country governed by neo-Ba'athists. The neo-Ba'athist government was a totalitarian dictatorship with a comprehensive cult of personality around the Assad family, and attracted widespread criticism for its severe domestic repression and war crimes. Being ranked fourth worst in the 2024 Fragile States Index, Syria is one of the most dangerous places in the world for journalists. Freedom of the press is extremely limited, and the country is ranked second worst in the 2024 World Press Freedom Index. It is the most corrupt country in the MENA region and was ranked the second lowest globally on the 2023 Corruption Perceptions Index. Syria has also become the epicenter of an Assad-sponsored captagon industry, exporting billions of dollars worth of the illicit drug annually, making it one of the largest drug cartels in the world. Syria, country located on the east coast of the Mediterranean Sea in southwestern Asia. Its area includes territory in the Golan Heights that has been occupied by Israel since 1967. The present area does not coincide with ancient Syria, which was the strip of fertile land lying between the eastern Mediterranean coast and the desert of northern Arabia. The capital is Damascus, on the Barada River, situated in an oasis at the foot of Mount Kayjan. After Syria gained its independence in 1946, political life in the country was highly unstable, owing in large measure to intense friction between the country's social, religious, and political groups. In 1970 Syria came under the authoritarian rule of Pres. Hafez al-Assad, whose foremost goals included achieving national security and domestic stability and recovering the Syrian territory lost to Israel in 1967. Assad committed his country to an enormous arms buildup, which put severe strains on the national budget, leaving little for development. After Assad's death in 2000, his son Bashar al-Assad became president. Despite some early steps toward political reform, Bashar al-Assad ultimately continued his father's authoritarian style of government, using Syria's powerful military and security services to quash political dissent. Long-suppressed internal tensions led to the outbreak of the Syrian civil war in 2011. Assad's brutal response to the civil war failed to keep him in power and, after a tremendous amount of death and destruction, he was finally deposed in December 2024. Syria is bounded by Turkey to the north, by Iraq to the east and southeast, by Jordan to the south, and by Lebanon and Israel to the southwest. Syria has a relatively short coastline, which stretches for about 110 miles, 180 kilometers, along the Mediterranean Sea between the countries of Turkey and Lebanon. Sandy bays dent the shore, alternating with rocky headlands and low cliffs. North of Tartus, the narrow coastal strip is interrupted by spurs of the northwestern al-Anariya Mountains immediately to the east. It then widens into the Akkar Plain, which continues south across the Lebanon border. The al-Anariya mountain range borders the coastal plain and runs from north to south. The mountains have an average width of 20 miles, 32 kilometers, and their average height declines from 3,000 feet, 900 meters, in the north to 2,000 feet in the south. Their highest point, at 5,125 feet, 1,562 meters, occurs east of Latakia. Directly to the east of the mountains is the Gab Depression, a 40-mile, 64 kilometers, longitudinal trench that contains the valley of the Oront River. The anti-Lebanon mountains, Jabal al-Sharqi, mark Syria's border with Lebanon. The main ridge rises to a maximum height of 8,625 feet, 2,629 meters, near Al-Nabk, while the mean height is between 6,000 and 7,000 feet, 1,800 to 2,100 meters. Mount Hermon, Jabal al-Sheikh, Syria's highest point, rises to 9,232 feet, 2,814 meters. Smaller mountains are scattered about the country. Among these are Mount Al-Duraz, which rises to an elevation of some 5,900 feet, 1,800 meters, in the extreme south, and the Abu Rajamain and Bishri Mountains, which stretch northeastward across the central part of the country. The undulating plains occupying the rest of the country are known as the Syrian Desert. In general, their elevation lies between 980 and 1,640 feet, 300 and 500 meters. They are seldom less than 820 feet, 250 meters, above sea level. The area is not a sand desert but comprises rock and gravel steppe. A mountainous region in the south-central area is known as Al-Amd. The Euphrates River is the most important water source and the only navigable river in Syria. It originates in Turkey and flows southeastward across the eastern part of Syria. The Euphrates Dam, constructed on the river at Tubksa, was completed in the 1970s. The reservoir behind the dam, Lake al-Assad, began to fill in 1973. The Oront is the principal river of the mountainous region. It rises in Lebanon, flows northward through the mountains and the Gab Depression, and enters the Mediterranean near Antioch, Turkey. The Yarmouk River, a tributary of the Jordan River, drains the Jabal al-Duraz and Oran regions and forms part of the border with Jordan in the southwest. Scattered lakes are found in Syria. The largest is Al-Jabal, a seasonal saline lake that permanently covers a minimum area of about 60 square miles, 155 square km, southeast of Aleppo. Other major salt lakes are Jared to the northeast of Damascus and Katuniya to the northeast of Al-Hasaka. Lake Muzayrib, a small body of fresh water, is located northwest of Daraa. The larger Lake Katana, Lake Homs, a reservoir, is west of Homs. Agriculture constitutes an important source of income. It provides work for about 1/4 of the population, including a significant proportion of townspeople. Wheat is the most important food crop, although its production is constantly subject to great fluctuations in rainfall. Sugar beet production is also significant. Barley, corn, maize, and millet are the other important grains. Cotton is the largest and most reliable export crop. Lentils are a major domestic food, but they also are exported. Other fruits and vegetables include tomatoes, potatoes, melons, and onions. Olives, grapes, and apples are grown at high altitudes, while citrus fruits are cultivated along the coast. High-grade tobacco is grown in the area around Latakia. Raising livestock, including sheep, cattle, camels, and poultry, is also an important agricultural activity. Forests make up a very small percentage of the country's total area. Most of the country's timber has to be imported. Syria's small number of fishermen use small and medium-sized boats. The annual fish catch includes sardines, tuna, groupers, tunny, and both red and gray mullet. Petroleum in commercial quantities was first discovered in the northeast in 1956. Among the most important oil fields are those of Suwaydiya, Karatchuk, and Rumaylan, near Deir al-Zur. The fields are a natural extension of the Iraqi fields of Mosul and Kirkuk. Petroleum became Syria's leading natural resource and chief export after 1974. Production peaked in the mid-1990s, however, before beginning a steady decline. Natural gas was discovered at the field of Jabasa in 1940. Since that time, natural gas production in Syria has expanded to form an important energy export. In addition, some of the country's oil-fired power stations have been converted to run on natural gas, freeing more Syrian petroleum for export. Wool, cotton, and nylon textiles are Syria's most important manufactures, and mills are mainly in Aleppo, Damascus, Homs, and Hama. Natural silk is also produced. Also of importance are the technical engineering industries, most of which are located in Damascus. Chemical and industrial engineering products include cement, glass panes, bottles and utensils, pharmaceuticals, plywood, and batteries. The food processing industry produces salt, vegetable oils, cotton cake, canned fruit and vegetables, tobacco, and a variety of dairy products. Other industries include the preparation of superphosphates and urea and petroleum refining. Syria's service sector contributes heavily to the country's overall income, and at the beginning of the 21st century the sector employed about half of the country's workforce. Syria attracts tourism with a rich treasure trove of historical attractions that includes ancient and classical ruins, Muslim and Christian religious sites, and Crusader and medieval Islamic architecture. Some of these have been designated UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Most tourists come from Arab countries, Iran and Turkey, attracted to Syria's relatively mild summer climate and popular entertainment. A much smaller proportion of tourists come from Europe and the United States. Privatization of the tourism sector stimulated growth in revenues during the 1990s. Since the early 2000s, privatization in the areas of real estate, insurance, and trade has played a greater role in stimulating growth. Syria's road network is the chief means of transporting goods and passengers. Major roads include the highway between Damascus and Aleppo and the road between Damascus and Baghdad. Syria's railways are well developed. A northern line runs northeastward from Aleppo into Turkey and then east along the border to Qamishli, where it crosses the northeastern extremity of Syria en route to Baghdad. The Hejaz Railway runs from Damascus to Amman, and another runs from Aleppo to Tripoli. Aleppo and Damascus are also linked by rail. Smaller lines run between Homs and Riyak, Lebanon, and between Beirut and Damascus. A railway also runs from Latakia to Aleppo, al-Hasaka, passing by the Euphrates Dam, and Qamishli. Another line extends northwest from Aleppo to the Turkish border at Maidan Akbiz. From Homs a line runs west to the port of Tartus, and a line also runs east to the phosphate mines near Tadmur, opening up the desert interior to the Mediterranean. The country's chief ports, Latakia and Tartus, were built after independence. Latakia has two main jetties, as well as wharves and warehouses. Port commerce was dampened by the closure of the Syrian border with Iraq in the early 1980s, although with the borders reopening in the late 1990s, shipments to Iraq as part of the United Nations, UN, Oil for Food program boosted the Syrian shipping industry. Syria has international airports at Damascus and Aleppo, and several domestic airports are located throughout the country, including those at Qamishli, Latakia, Deir al-Zur, and Tadmur. International services connect Syria with Arab, other Asian, and European countries. Domestic and international services are provided by Syrian Arab Airlines. Military service is compulsory for all adult males. College students receive deferments. Military service provides general and technical as well as military education and training. The army is the largest contingent of Syria's armed forces and is responsible for defense, public works, road construction, and public health. There is also an air force, a small navy, and reserve units for all three branches. Palestinian Arab guerrilla organizations operate from Syria and have training facilities there. About 4/5 of the Syrian population is literate. Schooling, which begins at age 6, is divided into 6 years of compulsory primary, 3 years of lower secondary, and 3 years of upper secondary education. Lower and upper secondary schools provide general, which prepares for university entrance, or vocational curricula. Secondary schools are open to all elementary students who wish to continue their education. Within this framework, increased attention is being given to technical education. The University of Damascus, founded in 1923, is the country's oldest university. Other universities include the University of Aleppo, 1960, Tishreen University, 1971, in Latakia, and Al-Baath University, 1979, in Homs. All levels of education have been expanded substantially since 1963. Football, soccer, is the country's most popular sport, and Syrians closely follow both Arab and European matches broadcast on national television. Weightlifting, judo, and karate are popular in the cities, and health clubs and gyms are becoming increasingly common in the capital. There are stadiums in Damascus, Aleppo, and Latakia, where occasional sporting events are held. The government-run Institute for Sports Education is in charge of organizing these sporting events, and the General Union of Sports, which is also funded by the government, promotes sports in rural areas to underprivileged children. Syria first competed in the 1948 Games in London and later won its first medal in men's heavyweight freestyle wrestling at the 1984 Olympic Games. In addition to sporting activities, other leisure activities include frequent family outings to favorite picnic spots by streams or to mountain resorts. Syria has 4 international airports, Damascus, Aleppo, Latakia, and Qamishli, which serve as hubs for Syrian air and are also served by a variety of foreign carriers. The majority of Syrian cargo is carried by Syrian Railways, the Syrian Railway Company, which links up with Turkish State Railways, the Turkish counterpart. For a relatively underdeveloped country, Syria's railway infrastructure is well maintained with many express services and modern trains. The road network in Syria is 69,873 kilometers, 43,417 miles, long, including 1,103 kilometers, 685 miles, of expressways. The country also has 900 kilometers, 560 miles, of navigable but not economically significant waterways. Telecommunications in Syria are overseen by the Ministry of Communications and Technology. In addition, Syrian Telecom plays an integral role in the distribution of government internet access. The Syrian Electronic Army serves as a pro-government military faction in cyberspace and has been long considered an enemy of the hacktivist group Anonymous. Because of internet censorship laws, 13,000 internet activists were arrested in 2011 and 2012. Syria is a semi-arid country with scarce water resources. The largest water-consuming sector in Syria is agriculture. Domestic water use stands at only about 9% of total water use. A big challenge for Syria before the civil war was its high population growth. In 2006 the growth rate was 2.7%. Leading to rapidly increasing demand for urban and industrial water. Arabic is the official language of the country. Several modern Arabic dialects are used in everyday life, most notably Levantine in the west and Mesopotamian in the northeast. Sunni Muslims make up around 74% of the population and Sunni Arabs account for 59 to 60%. Syria is a traditional society with a long cultural history. Importance is placed on family, religion, education, self-discipline, and respect. The Syrian music scene, in particular that of Damascus, has long been among the Arab world's most important, especially in the field of classical Arab music. Syria has produced several pan-Arab stars, including Ismahan, Farid al-Atrash, and singer Lina Kamamayan. The city of Aleppo is known for its muwashsha, a form of Andalus-sung poetry popularized by Sabri Mudallal, as well as for popular stars like Sabah Fakhri. Television was introduced to Syria and Egypt in 1960, when both were part of the United Arab Republic. It broadcast in black and white until 1976. Syrian soap operas have considerable market penetration throughout the Eastern Arab world. Thank you for watching this video.